Hey, what's going on, guys? Blacklisted Voice, episode 72, hopefully. We're here with Amanda Fischer, recently off her semifinal performance at the
Hello.
East semifinal. How you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing well.
Recovered?
Mostly.
No, it's like 2 weeks afterwards, yeah.
2 weeks later, still working on it.
Yeah. You rested for a week, did a double session accidentally on Friday afterwards.
I overdone did it a little bit. I rested Monday through Thursday right after, and then I was just gonna do class at CrossFit 404 because the workout looked really fun. But then I kind of got roped into doing class at Breaking Boundaries with some people. And I still wanted to do the 404 workout because it looked really fun, so I did both. And the Breaking Boundaries workout had 80 lunges in it, and my legs were still sore.
Roasted.
When it came to do Murph on Monday, so I came in back a little hard.
So I was just gardening on Tuesday then.
Just gardening on Tuesday.
Yeah. It's so hard though to not do that, like especially after you like literally train the hardest you've ever trained, and then you're like 4 days off. This is a sweet rest period. I'm ready to go. And then you're like, oh yeah, my tissues aren't tolerant to this anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. Like you also just don't want to come back too much, like too fast, because I feel like I did that a little bit last year, and I ended up spraining my ankle. And like your body ends up making you take the break versus if you just take the break at the start right at the end of the season.
Right.
You'll hopefully avoid any of that.
Yep. I learned that lesson more so from a burnout standpoint in 2015. So, yeah. So, I think you're doing class workouts this week, and then I think we're going to slowly ease you back into some like off-season work. And then a grid match starting in July.
I know I keep telling people, they're like, oh, do you want to do this with me? I'm like, no, that doesn't sound fun.
Are they asking you at 404?
Yeah. Oh. And I'm like, I get to do what sounds fun to me right now.
Yeah. I've just been doing shit for the last 3 months that beats me up. Like, I'm just going to have fun.
Yep.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, how do you feel about semifinals?
I feel really good. It was so fun. I knew it was going to be a cool experience. But, if you follow me on Instagram at all, you've heard me say it a million times that was more than I could have like ever expected out of that event. Like, it was really fun. Obviously, a lot of work to do and a lot of growth to make through it, but like a lot of growth that happened within that weekend and a lot of learning and a lot of fun. It was it was a really fun weekend.
Yeah. I think you summed it up perfectly, like on our car ride back from the venue on Sunday night. You're like, man, I'm not disappointed in the weekend, but I didn't even think I'd have the opportunity to be sad about missing that game. I think that was like just the perfect summation of
it was such a weird feeling because it's like, I'm sad, but I'm not sad because I didn't expect to be sad, but I am sad. Like, I almost made the CrossFit Games like that, and I wasn't expecting to be in that position. And so that was just, that was wild. But like not disappointed in the weekend in any way, shape, or form. Like it was all I could have asked for, minus a ticket to the games.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the big things is like people only see what they see, right? And like some people might have seen you like barely missing out on the games, but like, oh, she was so close. But it's like, man, you PR'd every testing, like every score in testing, and like that's all you can literally ask for.
Well, except for one.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about it later. But yes, I like by a lot. Like I PR'd
by a lot. Yeah. So it's like when you're looking at like athletes that perform better on like under competition standards, like that is the epitome of what it was, you know, and like you got the taste of competing with the best of the best, and you're like, okay, I know what this feels like. Now, like, I can go there. Yeah. So I think it just leaves the door open for an exciting next year.
Sure. I mean, I said to somebody before I even left for semifinals, because they were kind of asking me if I'll go individual or team next year. And at that point, I was like, I don't really know, probably back to team. But because I was like, I believe what did I say? I believe I have the potential to get good enough in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But it was like, no, I was good enough to go this year. It just didn't happen. It wasn't in the cards.
Right.
And it was like,
Oh.
No, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm pretty sure I probably won't be doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. So I think probably you set the tone off like just crazy for the weekend. Like, talk about the first event.
Yeah. Well, I remember like when I think in the warm up area. No, was it before we left? At one point, you had said, "I think this could be one of your best finishes of the weekend." I can't remember if that was at semifinals or if it was before we left.
Mm-hmm.
But you had said that, and I was kind of like, okay, yeah, the sled's heavy, but like that's a lot of cardio. That's like over a mile of running.
Right.
And historically, long distance of running in a workout has never really bode well for me.
Right.
But you had said that, and like we warmed me up, and it was just kind of like that was one that I basically was like, once you get on the run, just hang on, and then just pull. Like in training, I didn't finish it. I almost finished it. I was like so close to finishing it. It was to the point where you're like, do you just want to finish it?
Yeah.
Close, you know. And so it was like in my head, I knew like, okay, I'll finish this workout. We'll just see. And yeah, I got on the run first, and I'm like, okay. And then you're on the runner, and you have no idea where anybody else is.
Right.
I could be remembering this wrong because it was in the middle of a workout, but I think I was only about not even 100 meters into the run when the next girl got onto the run.
That was it Danielle?
Danielle.
Yeah.
Which like on the air runner is a pretty significant distance, but you can also make up that distance pretty easily if you're good on the run.
Yeah, like over the course of a mile.
Sure. 2,000 meters.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, you're on there and you have no idea where anybody is. So I'm like, just hang on, breathe. And then I got off first, and I'm like, okay. There are some girls who got off relatively quickly after me. So I was like, okay, this second to last sled distance, the second to last 3 pulls, is going to be the hardest sled of this event, because the last three lengths you're done after that, so you're just giving everything you have left. And so I was like, they are not going to catch you on this sled. You like your arms are tired, like you're breathing like they are not going to catch you on this sled. And then yeah, I got on the ski and then finished it off, and I was just like, I mean, you've seen the pictures probably. Like, I screamed so loud, like I was so freaking pumped. I was so jealous of the West semifinal, watching them, because their venue was a lot smaller, so their fans were like right along the side. Like I just wanted to go hug my fans, like hug my people who were there, but I couldn't because there was too much distance between.
Yeah.
But like it was so cool, and like I wanted a heat win on the weekend, and to get that in not only the first event, but a 20-person heat also. Yeah, it was really cool.
For sure, yeah. I think my idea, like one of the reasons I said that was because like you're one of the best in the sport on the Echo bike, and you're definitely like one of the best in the sport on the ski erg. So like I was like, if you could stay within 20 to 30 seconds of the ladies on the run, I think there's a shot for you to do really well in this workout. And then you ended up getting on the run first and demolishing the sled. Danielle said when you guys came off the floor, you're like, I think she said something like, man, I was really expecting you to slow down on that sled, and then you didn't.
Yeah. She was like, yeah, and then you got on the ski. I was like, she's going too hard on the ski. Like, she's like that. Like, she's like, but you didn't slow down. So I was like, dang it. Yeah. But then, like, there were 2 more. So there were 40 girls left to go. So I was like, okay, that was cool. It's at least a top 40 finish at the bare minimum, right? Yeah. And, like, my goal, I wanted top 40 finishes across the board. Like, that was kind of my goal for the weekend, too. And yeah, scores kept coming in. Like, Heat 2 went, and my score was still standing. And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the only person to beat me was Danielle Brandon.
It was like after the event that we figured that, like way after the event that we figured that out, right?
Yeah, well, because then somebody looked and we're like, Amanda, you're in second place. But then it was like, there were 5 or 6 scores that weren't in yet. Like, some girls from that first heat, or the final heat, still didn't have their scores in. So I was like, okay, the few of them probably beat me. So, but like, at least top 10.
Right,
But then, second place. It was like,
whoa.
Dang.
I think we were back at the Airbnb when we found out, right?
We were at...
Or was it during, like, the body work?
I think was that the first time we went to Bahama Breeze?
Oh, I don't know. That place is fucking good.
I know,
If you're in
it was so
Orlando,
good.
Bahama
You're in Orlando. Bahama Breeze. Island times and good vibes.
Are we sure that's the...
I thought
Okay. Fuck that up many time.
I'm pretty sure we were at dinner or at lunch or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was just you, me, and Julie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, yeah, that was pretty sick. I was like, oh, well.
I know, I was like,
great way to start the weekend.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Really.
Don't have to dig yourself out of a hole now, so that's exciting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then, yeah, I don't know. It was a fun one.
Yeah. And then, so we got back to the venue, or did we go back to the Airbnb, or we just went back to the venue?
I think we did go back to the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Maybe we were at the Airbnb, because I had the taco bowl for lunch that day.
Yeah, I think we were at the Airbnb.
Bahama Breeze, we went for dinner.
Yes. Yep. And then we went back for lunch on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we went back to the venue for the next workout, which was the ring muscle up in the backpack and burpees. How are you feeling coming into this one?
Yeah. I mean, I was excited for this one. I had the one time I actually tested out the workout was after a morning session of a bunch of ring muscle ups. Mm-hmm. So the complexes were actually really challenging. I didn't even make it to the burpee box jump overs. Mm-hmm. But then we practiced the complexes a few times after that, and they felt really good. Mm-hmm. And so I was excited for this one. We had a game plan, and I was excited. We worked a ton on my ring muscle ups and my mm-hmm. dip position and dip strength and all that type of stuff. So yeah.
And the way that they briefed the workout, that's the interesting thing is we never got the first week's tough because you never get any of the standards prior to it, so you're going in very blind.
We're like the guinea pig.
Yeah,
the guinea pigs,
right.
And so they had briefed a standard on the complex and then changed it.
Yeah, well because we were under the assumption that you had to do a whole complex unbroken.
Yes, that's what we thought.
At the briefing, they're like, you can do each thing individually.
Yeah.
And if you miss the dip, you can just do a muscle up and complete the dip.
Right. Well, and because somebody asked that question specifically,
mm-hmm.
they're like, if you miss the second dip, can you just do a muscle up? And if you dip out, that counts. And they're like, if you catch the muscle up low enough, because mm-hmm. The dip has the standard of your bicep having to touch the top of the ring. So it's if you catch low enough and dip out of it, yes, that counts.
Mm-hmm.
But then they changed that, but they didn't verbally tell us they changed that. They had a whiteboard with the heats on it in the athlete village, mm-hmm. and apparently they were also posting briefing changes there, but didn't tell us verbally, and also didn't even tell us that they might be posting changes on that whiteboard.
Yeah.
So if you got lucky and saw that,
well, I mean that's on me because I was checking the board and didn't look for it. So it's just that's very different than what we've experienced from competition in the past, where they'll brief you. For example, last year at the Granny Games, they're don't touch the line with your hands. They told us that on the competition floor, mm-hmm. where if they make changes like that, they'll tell you on the floor generally. Yeah. And so it was weird to have it just posted on a piece of paper and nobody going around telling you that.
Right, didn't even tell you that it was posted or that they might be posting changes, or to keep an eye out for that.
Right.
So what they changed was that if you missed the dip, you had to do a muscle up and the dip.
Yep.
So it didn't even pay anyway. So I got through the first round, made it to the burpee box jump overs, was super pumped, got 10, and then my goal was to get back to the burpee box mm-hmm. jump overs at least one more time, but I never made it past the complexes again, which was super frustrating because I didn't know about the standard change. So I think I did 2, and then I did 1, and then I think I only had 2 left in that second round, and in the 4th rep I missed the dip, and so then I did a muscle up, caught low, dipped out, and I was coming down, and she was like, no rep. And I was like, what? She's like, you have to do the dip. And I'm like, I'm so confused. So then I rested. Then in the break, I asked her, I was like, I thought I was very respectful about it. I literally said to her, I was like, can I ask you a question? Last night they said this, and she was like, they posted the change. And I was like, where? Like, I was so confused.
Yeah.
And so from there, it just kind of, I mean, it was what it was. And my dip has always been the part of my ring muscle up that once it's gone,
it's tough to get back.
Gone.
Yeah.
And so I think I got 2 or 3 complexes in that third round also.
Right.
But I mean, the score was the burpee box jump overs, so there were some girls that made it through the complexes each time, but never made it to the burpee box jump overs. So
because the pistols were still also challenging.
Yeah.
Especially doing them on just one leg.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And so, like, again, PR from training, and I think that was what, 38th or something like that.
Something like that.
Overall, and for a gymnastics workout.
Take
it.
Yeah,
I'll take it. I definitely wish that one would have been better.
Yeah.
And we're obviously gonna hammer that dip position just as much, if not more, again this year. You know, that just I think is something that's always gonna be when I'm already 30 pounds heavier than the rest of the field, and then you add 10 more pounds. You know, but that is what it is. And like again, I PR'd from training, and I mean. If you look at Sydney Wells, she took second to last place in that workout and still qualified for the games. So it's like at that point, like that workout wasn't going to make or break anything. So just kind of had to move on from it.
The scoring on that was interesting too. I think if I remember correctly, like even if you had gotten 10 more burpee box jump overs, it would have like barely put you over like 30th place.
Yeah.
So
I think Wells got 14 burpee box jump overs, and she's 4 spots ahead of me.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah. Which obviously
in the grand scheme of a competition,
it is significant. Like 8 spots is still significant, but it was like there was like you were kind of like in that middle ground, and then there was just a huge gap between the middle ground and like the top 20 basically. So that was an interesting workout in the East semifinal, because it really was like you had girls that could do it, and then you had girls that could do a round, and then you had girls that couldn't do it. Yeah. So it was like, but I think with the practice of it all, like the West and the Europe now and Australia, like they're getting more consistent on it, so there isn't that as big of a gap. If that makes sense. But,
for sure.
Yeah, I think it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if you had been able to get into that second round of burpees. Like just knowing that hey, like you need to go up and you need to do 2 dips basically.
Yeah.
Would have made a world of difference.
Yeah, like maybe would have rested a little longer before I hop up for my muscle up dip, or like
just
something like
caught higher and been like, I got to do another dip now. You know, like. Yeah.
But what was so interesting though, like in practice, even when I practiced, I'm super, super fatigued. That second dip wasn't a problem. It was the dip out of the muscle up, and as long as I got out of that, the second dip felt fine. So like I don't really know what happened.
Why you got no repped on one of your dips? Like, yeah.
I don't. She also no rep me on a muscle up, saying that like my feet came above the rings, and I like literally have never ever done that ever in a ring muscle up. So I'm like, there's no freaking way. Like my feet will come above the rings as I transition. But, like that's legal. They can't come up before you transition.
Yeah.
And so I think she might have just gotten confused if like that was what happened. But like I'd love to go back and watch if there was a video of that, because like I literally have never done that.
Yeah. I'm normally pretty good about like seeing why things are happening, and like my vantage point wasn't the greatest, and I was so lost in that work, partially because I also didn't know like you couldn't get
you didn't know the standard change either.
So
I
was
remember
like
finding you, and you were like, I was like I think I literally was like, don't worry about it. I think I literally just waved you off.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll explain after.
I was like, what in the fuck just happened? Like that was, I was so confused. But I mean, it is what it is. Like it was a learning experience. Like ultimately, you only have like you to control and like fix the things that happen during that. So, but yeah, I think next year, like you definitely come back ready to attack that movement and some.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So take us through the updated leaderboard, and you were sitting in 8th place.
Oh, I think it was 9th, but
9th place, yeah.
At the end, I was like, so it was just wow. Like I'm like, I wanted to move up heats after day 1, but like to be in the top heat, I was like, holy holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, and with two of my stronger, like what should be my stronger workouts coming up on day 2, like I was pretty excited and very much like, what's happening?
Yeah.
But I also didn't like, it was hard because I didn't want, it was like I've tried really hard for that to like not change the game plans because we didn't anticipate me to be here, but that really doesn't change anything, right? Like I still have to go out and do my thing during learning the work, like not let that get to me. But at the same time, like in the back of my head, especially doing so well in event 1, it was like I didn't want that to like be a fluke. You know what I mean? And so and it's funny, we'll talk about Linda in a second, but we were in the warm-up area after Linda talking to one of the competitors and her boyfriend who was back there as her coach. And her boyfriend said, like, more or less paraphrasing here, but like, yeah, I was interested to see how you were going to do on Linda because you did so well on workout 2. And I was like, I knew it. I knew people were thinking that. Yeah. And it's like, you know, you can speculate and all this stuff, but it was like, I knew people were thinking that. And it was like, I didn't want it to be like, oh yeah, workout 1 was just a fluke for her. She's just really strong on the sled, I guess, or something, you know? And so it was like trying to keep that like in the back of my head and not letting that come up too much to the forefront to like not put too much pressure on myself, because we came in with little expectations and I wanted it to stay that way because I already put a ton of pressure on myself. And so like I was really trying to just make sure that I didn't do that, especially with 2 days and 5 tests left.
Right.
Like, you know, like, because that was the thing too. There was a lot of weekend left.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of weekend left. Yeah. So.
And you can let yourself, like, if you jump up there and you're like, well, fuck, like, what am I doing here? Like, these girls are so good. Like, was that a fluke event? Like, what in the world is going on? Like, now, like, you can psych yourself out, like, before a competition, in the middle of a competition, in the middle of a workout. And that was like one thing that was super cool, was like your mindset throughout the entire weekend was like awesome. You're like, I'm not fazed about being in the top 10. I'm just here to go and do what I can do. Whatever happens at the end of the weekend is going to be what happens at the end of the weekend. Ultimately, like, yes, there's pressure for you to, like, you want to do well. You want to see your name up on the leaderboard, but the biggest pressure is just making sure that you perform to your best on the workouts. And you just kept that focus of like, I'm just going to do me. I'm going to go out there. I know what I did in testing. I'm going to try and beat that. And that was kind of like your mindset throughout the entire weekend. And so that was super awesome to just watch and see. Like, I didn't have to do much coaching on that. It was like, yeah, she's in a good spot right now.
Yeah. I mean, we've done a lot of work with that. I feel like, especially this season with it being my first individual season, and like quarterfinals was a good practice run for all of that. For sure. Because like I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself in quarterfinals and like did have some meltdown moments based off of the leaderboard, or like I should say before we even knew what the leaderboard was. Like, you know, so, that was a good practice. I mean, we've done a lot of work with that and just a lot of mindset and kind of focusing on the right type of stuff for the season. So
yeah. Okay, so Linda, day 3 or day 2? I guess technically it was day 3 because the team started early.
Day 2 for me.
So day 2, Linda, run, snatch, run. So like, what were you thinking heading into this day, and like, how did Linda go?
Yeah, I was super excited for day 2 just because obviously the latter half of the day was something I was really excited about, ready to max out the snatch. But Linda, I was super, I mean, we ran into Sabrina, my nutrition coach, on our way in, and she was kind of asking me about it. And I was, like I said, what I said to her was, I'm super excited to attack this one. My training session for it, my practice run, was complete garbage. Like, it did not go well. My back blew up in the round of freaking 8, I think. If not before that. And didn't get anywhere near finishing the workout. But there were a lot of things, both in and outside of our control, that in that test run that for why it didn't go well. One of which being I did not warm up properly, and
Mm-hmm.
that is 100% in my control or our control. So we were going to make sure I was warmed up and just, I was excited to attack that one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really fun workout.
Yeah.
That was my first, other than my practice run, but like I'd never done Linda in any way, shape, or form before it.
Right.
So it was like my first true like test of Linda. And yeah, that was a fun workout.
For sure. The way they had it set up too was super fun because like previously when they did it in 2018, it was like 10 girls in a lane and you had to watch 4 heats of the girls doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But with 20 people, it made it way more entertaining because you had more races races going on. Not a lot. There wasn't a lot of racing in that workout, but there was more like, oh, these two are kind of close, you know?
Yeah. This is the one workout, like we were just talking about this is the one workout from the weekend though that I was like, I had more in me at the end of this. Like I could have done, I took 18th, which is good. Yeah. But I could have done, I guess I don't know what the times were between like 18 and 10, but like I could have done significantly better in this workout, I think. There was a moment in time, I can't remember what round we were on, 7 maybe, and I was rep for rep with Danielle Brandon. Like I was right there with her, and I specifically said to myself during the workout, like, don't get caught up in the race. And because, when you're out there, you have to run your own race. You have to do your own thing. Like, you can't worry too much about what the people around you are doing. But that being said, when you're competing against the best, like, it does become a race and you need to learn. And so, like, I need to learn how to race and, like, the moments it's appropriate for me to race and the moments that it's not. And I absolutely could have raced in that workout.
For
like
sure.
I had my test run in the back of my mind. So that was definitely holding me back a little bit. Cause like round of 7, cause you still have over half the workout left. So I'm like, there is still room to blow up. Right. And so that was just in my head. But, I'm a baby when it comes to individual work, like individual competition, as in like this was my first year. Yeah. And so like I'm still learning like that specific part of individual competition.
Totally.
Like I definitely could have raced in that workout.
Yeah. And I think, we were just talking before we started this podcast, and like I think with individual, there's like 2% performance above like somebody you're racing, 2% performance below that individual that you're racing. But like you kind of want to just find somebody and be like, okay, I'm kind of close to this person. We're going to race now. Maybe I have that 2% this day. Maybe I don't have that 2% this day. And like, shit, maybe it's even like 0.5% you're within that individual, So like, I think, but at the same time, it's like, this is your first time going against people that are that good. So like,
literally Danielle Brandon, like one of the literal best in the world right now. And I'm like, I could race Danielle Brandon like that. Like what?
Right. And it's just, it's a whole nother gear too. So it's like, not only is it like racing, but it's like racing in a whole nother gear that you haven't had a ton of exposure to yet. So it's just a whole nother ball game that you're just going to have to get used to over the next year.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. But it was still really cool to cross that finish line. I mean, I didn't end up finishing Linda when we practiced it, but at the 17-minute mark, I was 1 deadlift into the round of 4 and was not moving quickly, like, And so, like, I think you were like, that was probably at least a 5-minute PR. Like, if I had gone and finished Linda when we were practicing it, like, it felt really good to cross that finish line. And I knew early on in that workout, I was like, I'm not only going to do better than training, I am finishing this workout. Yeah. Like I knew I was going to finish the workout.
Yep.
But not disappointed in that finish at all, but definitely like I had more in me. And it's like kind of going back to the racing or like kind of, and I said this in my Instagram post, if you're following my reflections, it's like the difference between like Danielle Brandon, Paige Powers, like, and myself, it's like, they've been there before, they've done this, so they know they have that extra gear, they know they have that push. And one thing that Nicole Corey always says to, like, whenever I chat with her about it, she's like, and she had this experience back when she was competing at regionals and stuff. It was like, your first time out there, you're like a little starstruck, but then you realize that they're human. They're just like you. Like, they're not superhuman. They're not like, you know, they're just like you. And like, you are out there with them.
Yeah. And you earned the right to be.
And you earned it, yeah. And that was like the other thing too this weekend, or that weekend. Just kind of reminding myself, like, I earned this pressure. I earned this, like, opportunity.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
So Linda was really fun, but I had more.
Yeah. No doubt. Okay, so get done with Linda. Obviously, we're a little worried about the back, so we went and got some body work done.
Yes.
Perform, recover,
yes.
Lauren.
RPR. Yep. Thank you, Lauren.
Huge help.
Yes.
At all your competitions. So, and then I think that's when we went to lunch for Bahama Breeze.
Because we were like, this place was delicious.
Yeah. And then, so next event was probably, honestly, the one you were probably most excited for this weekend. So, snatch, run, or run, snatch, run. We had a game plan going in, and back in the warm-up area was interesting.
Yeah. Warm up for that event did not go well.
Yeah.
And it's actually just funny. I a girl who did make it to the games from the West, she just did like a little thing on her story about her snatch event. And it sounds like a very similar thing happened to her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but my warm up in the back was not good. I didn't miss any lifts. So it's not like I was missing lifts, but they were not good. They were disconnected and like just nothing felt good. And I don't remember, you tried to say something to me. I can't remember what it was, but I was sitting on the plates on a bar, and I was just like, don't talk about it. Like, I just got to figure it out. Talking about it's going to make it worse, because it's going to make me think about it more, and I'm already thinking too much.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. I just, like, my lift started getting better when I literally just told myself to stop thinking. Like, I was thinking way too much about it. I never think that much when I'm lifting.
Right.
Like, the main...
Amanda C-bar, Amanda lift.
like, especially with snatches, the main thing I think about is keeping my toes on the floor.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing we've, like... And, like, pulling the bar all the way into the hip. Like, those are the two things I'm ever thinking about. If I'm even thinking about them, to be honest, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, I was just thinking, and I don't know if I was just putting pressure on myself, because, again, people were expecting me to do really well in this workout. And I'm always, like, I honestly feel like I'm more nervous for events that I'm supposed to be good at in the warm-up area than for events that are, like...
So like 50-50.
Like, yeah, that could go either way. Because you do have that outside expectation for people, but also, like, I have that expectation of myself. Like, I expect to do really well in this workout.
Right.
And so once I told myself to, like, I literally, when I would walk up to the bar, I'm like, don't think, just lift. They started getting a little bit more connected. And then we got corralled, and I'm just like, we never talked about changing the game plan, which was good. I'm glad we didn't. I don't know if you were thinking about it at all, but, like, I'm glad that we didn't, because, yeah, like, we didn't think, like, game plan was game plan. I never even thought about, maybe I should change my number. Like, that never crossed my mind either. Because, again, I also know that when I get out there, I'm going to lift heavy. Like, that's just...
Yeah. Well, the other thing we did with the game plan, too, was we gave you a bunch of wiggle room.
Yeah.
So, like, in my mind, there wasn't any reason to change any of the numbers. It was just like, you're going to go out there and make the decision for yourself if you need to change them.
Yeah.
So.
But right before he stepped on the floor, they had a little warm-up area back behind, like, right behind the floor, so that we could be hitting some snatches while we were waiting to walk out.
Which they did last year. Keep doing that, please.
Yes, please. And I hit a 165, like, and it was the cleanest one I'd hit all warm up. So I was like, I hit that, and, like, we made eye contact, and we're just like,
perfect.
Good. Okay. And then, went out there, and then I cannot be trusted to add my own weight to a barbell in competition. I don't know what it is.
What happens?
So I loaded up. The 175 is easy. You just have the 45 and the 25. I think what confuses me is that the 10-pound plates are not the same size as the other plates, which they are
here,
like in every, so like I see a smaller plate, I'm like, oh, that's the 5.
Yeah.
You know? And so I hit my 175, and then the judge was like, what's next? I say 190, and I load up the one side for 200 unknowingly, or like not thinking about it. And then I go to the other side, and I grab exactly what I grabbed for the other side, and I have it, and I'm literally about to put it on, and I look, and I'm like, that's not right. And I put it back, and I load up this side for one, and he's like, this side's loaded up for 200. I'm like, I know. And so I like go to change that, and at this point I'm at like 5 minutes and 15 seconds, which is past when I was supposed to take my second lift. Supposed to take my second lift at 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I hit the 190, and I'm like, all right, we're good. And I have like less than 30 seconds to load my bar and hit a third lift.
Yeah.
And I did it.
Yeah.
I started pulling at like 155, and I hit it, and yeah, I mean, you've probably seen the videos, like, it was, I mean, I had people in the back be like, was that a PR? I'm like, no, I just, based off of my warm-up and like everything, like, I didn't know if 200 was going to be there today. Like, 200 was the game plan all along, but yeah, so that was really cool. But yeah, I really can't be it happened 2 years ago at West Coast when we were loading our bar for the clean and jerk, and Nicole's like, just trust me. That was partially the judge's fault, but that's a different story.
From where I was sitting, like, I could only see one side of the bar, and so like you're taking forever to load the side that I couldn't see, and then you like move over to the other side, and I see you grabbing all your weights, and I knew that for 190 you had to put 5s and 2.5s on, which are blues and greens with the rainbow plates, and you grab a white plate. I'm like, and then you stare at it and stop, and then you're like, have to go back and like grab all the other plates. I'm like, well, and one thing Amanda said in the briefing was like, man, I don't know why people wait until the buzzer to take a bar off the ground. Like, I'm lifting with like 10 seconds left minimum. And as soon as she started loading for 190, or like I saw that, I was like, well, there goes that. She's about to do it now.
I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But I mean, so that one felt good for so many reasons, because the warm up, like, we didn't know if 200 was there today, but we were like, that was still the game plan, but we didn't know what was going to happen. And yeah, so that was a fun one.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Yeah. And the next one's kind of just so quick. It's almost like the turnaround for it's just kind of, it's almost like a blur of a workout. Because like the snatch is so fun, and then watching people run for 3 minutes is like so anticlimactic. I know.
Yeah, and that was good too. I definitely like need to work on my running a little bit. Like, and it's kind of like, I think about like, kind of, if it's like, if I had run slower on the first 800, would that have given me a little bit extra in the second 8? But this time around, everything happens for a reason, because I wouldn't have had time to hit my snatches if I like, you know, so I needed to run that fast because I, you know, messed up loading my barbell. But yeah, I mean, in that one too, I kind of look back at that, and there's a part of me that's like, did I have more in me on that one? Like, was that more of just like a mental thing that I just needed to push harder on that second run? It's hard to know with running for me, if it's, because my legs feel so heavy on that runner sometimes.
Right.
You know, and so it's just like, is this a physical thing or is it a mental thing? Is it a little of both? Like, when I look back at that one, I'm like, did I have like 30 seconds faster in me? Probably not. That, but like, you know, But I mean, that workout too was what, like almost a 40-second.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney's obviously like outlier.
Well, I mean, 40-second PR for myself.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. That, I think you finished that one in training in like 5:20 something. Or wait, what was your time there? Sorry.
350.
Yeah, it was like 420 something.
Yeah, something like that.
Then, yeah,
it was the last one that was 5.
Yes, yeah. So you're like 420 something in training, and then you went like 345, I think, there. So it was like a 30-40 second PR again. So which is like all again, like, sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that one is just, gotta get a little bit better at running, especially under like some fatigue from the first run, and then the snatches and stuff. But
for sure.
I was happy with test fives
Yeah.
result. Like, again, there's some girl, like, yeah, Sydney's an outlier. She's running ridiculous. But, you know, like, there's some good runners out there in the top of the field. So, and again, I was in the top heat for that event.
Right,
so,
right.
Like, I did not take last in my heat, though.
Nope.
That was like, I was like, all right.
Yeah, I think we made a post on Friday night, like, moved up to heat 6 just in time for moving day. And then you literally went 10, 8. Like, moved down, moved up.
Yeah. I moved both directions on moving day. Yeah.
Like, made the most of that.
Yep.
Yep. And then I think, like, I told you this, but, like, Saturday night, it's so hard to just ignore people, and like, especially as an athlete. But, like, so many people were like, oh man, like, texting, oh man, is going to the games, yada yada yada. And, like, you handled it perfectly, and we're like, there's still a lot of weekend left. Anything can happen in this, like, these next 2 workouts. You never know. And that was, like, this whole weekend, just, you were able to watch your growth as an athlete happen, like, event after event after event. And it was super awesome to see. And, like, you had people texting, I know people were texting you about it, like, people were texting me about it. And, like, one thing that I had told you, like, kind of in our debrief of the thing, was, like, the energy just felt right this whole weekend. And, like, Phil Jackson talks about creating, like, vibes in his team, and, like, this whole weekend, the vibe just, and I fucking hate that word, but
Vibe.
but, like, the energy just felt right this weekend. And, like, Saturday night, I was like, there is 100% a possibility that this could happen. But if it doesn't happen, this whole weekend was exactly what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And, like, that, like, personally, going into Sunday was just super refreshing to have that feeling versus, like, man, there's all this pressure on, like, the team, the athletes, whatever. They're not in the right mindset. It was like, no, everything's happening exactly as it's supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool, like, heading into Sunday.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what you were feeling also, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I think we were on our way back to the Airbnb on Saturday night, or on our way to dinner or whatever, and it was just like, could I make the CrossFit Games? Like, it was like, holy crap. But right, there were still 2 events left, one of which could go either way.
Right.
We'll talk about it in a second. Unfortunately, it went not the right way, but, like, one of which could go either way, one of which should be a really good workout for me, you know? So it's like, there really was so much, like, 2 events is a lot. Like, a lot can happen in 2 events.
Yeah.
And so, like, just kind of like I said before, keeping all of that stuff in the back of my mind, and just, like, if the chips all fall in the right place, it'll happen. And if they don't, it won't. And, you know, like you said, the weekend, like, regardless of that, was going to be
a success.
Like, it already was a success.
Right.
We could have, I mean, not that it would have felt good, but, like, could have bombed both workouts on Sunday, and, like, the weekend as a whole still would have been a success, because it was already so much more than what we expected.
Right. Yep. So the skill workout, I guess, is what you could call it on Sunday.
Good way to call it.
So we ended up not getting the standard for the rope climb until, man, like, I guess there was a packet that got leaked that was sent to me, and so, like, that was what, 2 days before we left or something like that.
Yeah.
A day before we left.
Yeah, like my last training session.
Yeah.
We were able to kind of practice it.
But you had a rib thing going on too.
Yeah.
So it's like we couldn't fully practice it. So we didn't practice the standard exactly. We knew that your grip was going to blow up, and then obviously the first kind of portion of that workout doesn't matter much. But I think, just what can you walk through, like, the beginning part of that workout? Or
well, first of all, I got no reps on my first overhead squat for depth, which, like, again, never have I ever, but whatever. No, but overhead squats and row, like, that was that. We were actually more worried about the pirouettes than we were for the legless rope climb, but those went just fine as well. Just, like, did those to plan. The plan was to hit a pirouette, come down, hit a pirouette, like, walk, hit a pirouette, come down. That was great. First rope climb felt honestly great.
Yeah.
And then I started trying to go up for my second one, and it just, wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Like it's like it was such a weird feeling because like I said, the first one felt good. Like it didn't feel like it overly taxed me. And then but like the two, I keep saying, like, this is obviously classic CrossFit too, where it's like we finally got me so good and confident in like just regular legless rope climbs. And then not only do they say like now you have to control yourself down, but you also have to start from a seated position, which like those two things combined, like if it was like one or the other, I still think it like makes it a little harder, but like adding both of those things to a legless rope climb, like
definitely makes it different.
Yeah, and so my forearms were just completely blown after that first one, and it was just like it was super unexpected. I expected that in the second set of rope climbs, not the first set, and so I had like tried a couple, and failed. Like didn't even barely made it past the stupid little red line at the bottom. And thankfully you were in a spot that you were able to come.
Yeah, like you were in lane 1, which is right next to where we were standing. So it was like it ended up working out.
And so like you were giving me just like time frames, like, hey, do your next rope climb at X time.
Yeah.
And when you did that, like the next rope climb, I made up, I made down. It was great. Got to my handstand push-ups, finished that, and then, I just couldn't get another rope climb.
Yeah.
Like I made it up there a couple of times and then just like had no grip left in me to control myself down. Still working through rope burn on my finger and just like, and that one, like, again, knew it wasn't going to be my best finish of the weekend. And so it's, I think 51st overall. And like that in and of itself is what it is. Like my biggest like disappointment, because you asked me what I was feeling after that workout and I said disappointed. I get a little emotional talking about this workout every time. And not disappointed in the placement. Like if I had gotten 51st and performed to what I felt was my absolute best ability, would have been fine. I was disappointed because I felt as though my performance didn't showcase my true capacity or ability in that workout. And that happens. You have bad workouts sometimes, and unfortunately it sometimes happens in competition. Like I know that I'm better than what my performance in that workout showed, and it just sucks when that happens on the biggest stage I've ever been on by myself.
For sure.
For
sure.
So, like, I'm not disappointed about how I handle it on the floor. I'm not even disappointed about the fact that I was crying about it afterward, because any person who's been in that position knows that it sucks and you need to let those emotions out.
For sure.
So I'm not even disappointed about that. Was just disappointed that, like, I couldn't, in that moment, couldn't showcase, like, all of the hard work we put in. I mean, I'd showcase all the hard work in the couple days before, but it's like you want to showcase it especially with rope climbs. Like that is one thing we've worked a lot on. I mean, not controlling down or starting from a seated position, but like we won't listen here. But like still, that's one thing. Like, not that I wasn't nervous for that part of the workout, but like that wasn't the part of the workout that I was really nervous for. Like I just didn't expect that, and so
like we knew your grip was gonna blow up on it, but it was something that seemed like we could manage pretty well, and like in that, like with just like you had mentioned this coming out the floor too. You're like, I think the ropes were thicker than what we have here, which also makes a big difference. But it was just like we just couldn't, for whatever reason, manage that fatigue inside of the workout at that point in time.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if we had given you an extra 30 seconds of rest after the strict handstand push-ups would have made a difference. Maybe if you had gotten to practice the standard of coming down without the legs, like that, I tried to throw everything at you.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I just didn't.
That neither of us thought of, because you asked me multiple times if there's anything I could think of.
Right. And it was just like trying to get more creative about things, like especially with him programming, like more creative with things like leading up into a semifinal or something.
I mean, you even had me practice strict LSIT rope climbs, which like I could do. Again, with those, didn't control myself down, but like so it's like we did practice a lot, and so it was just that was the biggest disappointment in that workout.
For sure,
was not the fit. Like not the overall finish, but it was just the fact that I know I'm better than what that showed, and that just happens sometimes.
For sure. Yeah, so we went back to the back to get the forearms like worked on because
they were so
pumped.
It was like you couldn't even push them in. They were so
yeah, they
pumped.
were pumped.
It was bad.
They were pumped. And like you could tell you were disappointed, but it wasn't like you were like sometimes when people are disappointed they don't give people the time of day, but like you were still giving people like the time of the day, and like you weren't this like I had you listen to a podcast like prior to quarterfinals, and the individual, I can't remember his name, but it's on the Mindset Advantage podcast. DJ Hillier does it, and he was talking about how at the end of your career you remember your relationships with people and how you treat people, and like yes, you were disappointed, but you still treated people well after that workout. And I think that was like a true testament to your character as a person in general. It's like, I understand, like, I'm out here competing and I want to do my best, but at the end of the day, it's like, I care about people and the people around me and the people that are helping me. And like, I'm not going to, just because I had a bad workout doesn't mean I'm going to snap at somebody for trying to cheer me up out of that bad workout, you know? So that was cool to see.
Oh, thanks.
But, yeah, so like you were getting body work done, and we kind of said like, let's just go we've done this several times at the gym, like just go take a walk and talk about it. And so we ended up doing that. We found a somewhat secluded place, like a couple of random employees that came over there. But could you just like describe what that conversation was like and like what happened during that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, it started with you asking me how I felt, and I said disappointed, and you asked me why, and I said all the things I just said. And you validated that, which I appreciated, and like, yeah, validated that, like, yep, it's okay to be sad and disappointed and crying, like that's totally acceptable. Like, you weren't trying to tell me that, like, you need to snap out of it. Like, you know, like you let me have my big feelings. But then you gave me the pep talk of just basically like, there's still one workout left. It's like not completely out of the question at this point. Like, you didn't expect to be here. You have, again, earned the right to be competing against the top women in this sport. And like, we're just going to go out there. Game plan doesn't change. And just the phrase that I remember you saying multiple times is like, give yourself a chance. And sorry. It's a really emotional weekend.
Yeah, right.
Like, just give yourself a chance. Like, no matter what happens, you were proud of me. And like, yeah, it was everything I needed to just get ready for the last event.
Tough workout.
Yeah, like a tough, quick, painful. Like, this was probably going to be the most painful workout of the weekend, just because it's so fast. And like, it's one like super easy to give up into, like, if you're not in the right mindset. So like, it was just, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give myself a chance. I'm going to do what I can. Like, at that point, it was like, I would have had to probably almost win the workout to make it, but like, or like a top 5 finish,
3 to
like,
5,
and like, this was also a really grippy workout, which my grip was already blown. Like, I would have had to like again, never out of, like, I wasn't out of it completely, but I would have had to like really, really PR this thing.
And like, not to take any, like, you PR'd it, and like, not to take anything away from your performance in that workout, but I do think you're still a year away from being like a top 10 in that workout, which I still think is capable for you.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to kind of what we've talked about a couple times, is just like the exposure to like that level of intensity, kind of like what we were talking about with Linda, like, that next year that I just like, I rarely am exposed to that next year other than in competition, and I compete 4 times a year, if that,
Yeah, right.
So it's like, it's just enough. Like, it was you needed an extra gear, and you needed to be able to hang on to that pull bar, like,
Yeah.
But like, I still PR'd that workout by like 40 seconds, like, and yeah. So
Yeah, it was still awesome, like a super solid performance.
Yeah.
Like, to PR that by 40 seconds from testing is really good.
Yeah,
So.
especially with like a really blown up grip. Like, I mean, my
Yeah.
grip was not as blown in practice as it was on Sunday.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, yeah, it was just, that was my kind of my mantra going into that one. Just give yourself a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, I was on the floor with, you know, I was on that floor while they're announcing the top 11 girls. So it's like, I didn't even expect to be on that floor,
right.
You know, at that moment.
Right.
It's like, I would have been happy with top 40. And like my ultimate, like, goal was top 30,
yeah.
You know, and I ended up into the top 20.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, going into it, I was kind of thinking you were going to be like anywhere from like 25 to like 40th place. So, yeah. To be in the top 10 for half the weekend's pretty freaking sweet.
So, like, again, the chip, like, I was like, it's that realization that it's like, no, wow, like, I am good enough to go. It just wasn't my year.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that, honestly, that one workout goes a little differently, and like
there's a stronger
possibility that I'm in. Like,
mm-hmm.
You know, it just kind of gives me that fire to, like, again, get back into it, and
mm-hmm.
Makes me that much more excited to, as much as, like, you know, you hate working on your weaknesses. It's like, I mean, I'm excited. Like, what did you say? You're like, you're gonna touch a rope every week, like 50, once a week.
Once a week. That's 52 times.
At minimum. So, like, you know, I'm excited for that. You know, I'm excited to like get better at that stuff so that it doesn't keep me out next time.
Totally.
You know, like, and obviously you never know. Every year is different, and we'll cross all of those bridges when we get there. But yeah. I mean, it made me really excited, and it was a really fun weekend.
Yeah. It's like one of those, so like, this is just kind of like reflecting on like my athletic career, and like, as an athlete, you kind of have like, you have a little bit of fire when you first start, and then you kind of like get into this like grind state, and then something happens in a competition like West Coast in 2021, although that was kind of a weird weekend, but like, you're like, man, we were so close, and like, you have this high for next year, and then you know, we finished 6th place again in 2022, and it's like, oh, dang, like now it's a low, and you almost have to kind of ride this roller coaster, but at the same time, you can, like, you don't know the future, but I think the one thing that you can expect, especially if you have a good kind of like optimistic mindset about things, is that there's always going to be highs that keep you moving forward, and then there's always going to be lows that you kind of have to dig yourself out of sometimes, and like, ride the highs while you have them and just battle through the lows, I think is one thing I think you've learned, and you do a great job with in general, throughout the course of however long your career is going to be, you know. So, but yeah, I was super proud of you this, like, well, I guess it's 2 weekends ago now, but it was like you grew as an athlete, workout to workout, and like your character as a person just showed. So it was a fun weekend.
Yeah. And like, honestly, it was also amazing too, like coming back and like even immediately after, just kind of like all the love and support from people before going to semifinals, at semifinals, after semifinals. Like, I have such an amazing crew of people, the people who were there, the people who were texting from afar, like it was amazing. And like one of the, I think, best compliments I have received since is just like, it was so fun to watch.
Yeah, it genuinely was. Like, one of the cool things, like, I think CrossFit in this format is great for the sport, because you're going to have like these, like, one thing that was fun about regionals is you almost always had this kind of like random person that you didn't know much about, like, sneak into a game spot. And I think you're going to, with this format, start having that again. And that was one of the biggest attractions to CrossFit, was like John Colte is the person that sticks out in my mind. Like, this dude was literally cleaning porta potties out, working out 60 minutes a day, and just happened to have a great weekend at regionals and qualified for the games, you know? So it's like, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. It's just like not the professional athlete per se, but like people just that have great weekends just get into and so like, it's bringing that kind of like fun and atmosphere back to the sport. And then to have you be, I know Caroline Stanley is like, this is her first time, but she competed at a semifinal last year, but like, you were literally that person for almost the whole weekend this year. And like, to be that person is just like, what the fuck is going on? You know?
Yeah. Well, didn't somebody tell us that somebody was in like the recovery room being like, "Who the fuck is this Amanda?"
Yeah,
like,
I think somebody
like
was saying that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it was right because like I mean I did compete at semifinals the last 2 years, but it was team and like you know, especially because I feel like too it wasn't being run by CrossFit HQ,
Right.
so like they weren't really paying close attention,
Yeah,
especially
they weren't even like putting stuff on their Instagram at that point in time. I don't think.
No, not really as
and
much.
now, like you were getting featured on their Instagram.
Yeah.
Like it
2 times.
Yeah, dopes. So I really think like I think bringing it back to this format is going to be great for the sport. This is just my observation. People might have other observation, but I thought the place was packed even on Thursday for the teams. Like I was like genuinely shocked at how many people were there. Like for the teams on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday, that place was like there was a lot of people there. Yeah, and a big venue. So, I'm pretty optimistic about the future or this format's future.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, no, it was so exciting, so much fun, and I just have to say thank you to everybody who supported me. Like sure. I can't say thank you enough. I feel like all my posts lately are like just reiterating the same things over and over and over again. But like to everybody, like you, obviously, like Lauren RPR who came down, like all my sponsors and people who have helped get me here, the people who donated, like
for sure.
Julie, obviously, you know, I just like I can't pinpoint everybody specifically in this moment, but just know like you know who you are, and I love you, and thank you so much. Like I could not do it without every single one of you. It was so much fun.
Like you all contributed to an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah.
So, okay. So 2 kind of questions here.
Yeah.
What could you do to improve the semifinal experience for next year for athletes?
What could I do specifically?
Well, no,
what feedback do I have for CrossFit?
For CrossFit, yeah.
That's a good. I think a better level of communication.
Okay.
Would be probably my number one. Like if you do have changes and those sorts of things, they need to be communicated in some way, verbally. You know, even if like with the posting of the standard changes, you need to at least tell us that you posted it.
Well, and sorry, not to
jump
jump in, but like I think this is pretty common knowledge now. Like they messed up the women's heats and men's heats and then never sent an email out about it either. So like people were literally coming back to the venue being like, I'm going in 20 minutes. What? Like,
So on Sunday, the packet we got, it showed women, men for event 6, and then men, women for event 7. And I even said to you, that's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird.
But I wasn't going to question it. This is an official thing we got from CrossFit HQ. And they switched it and never told us, never. Like
we got lucky because somebody in
the
recovery room just like told everyone.
But we were planning on going back to the Airbnb. But so we got lucky and didn't leave. But I think honestly just communication. And over communication is better than no communication. You know, I'd rather be annoyed by the amount of emails I'm getting from CrossFit Games during the weekend than being like, why did I not know this?
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, there's learning curves to everything, right? Like, you know, the first year I went to Granny Games, there was a lot of things that I would change for the next year, and then a lot of those changes got implemented. So hopefully that's the case for next year. I think they're pretty good about taking into account for things. So but I definitely agree with that. What did you think of the tests this weekend? Did you think they were a good balance of fitness? Did you think that they selected for the right athletes from quarterfinals? Obviously, we still have to see if they reflect games level testing. But what was your kind of big overview of the tests this weekend?
My initial thought when they got released was like, these feel very games-esque. They felt more like, not that I haven't done individual semifinals before this year, obviously, but like just thinking back to the workouts from the past few years, again, not programmed by the games, but they just felt a lot more games-esque, kind of with the weighted ring complexes, the standards on the rope climbs, those sorts of things, all just very things that you would normally think that you'd be seeing at the games that they don't normally throw into this level of competition. And overall, I really liked the programming.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it was balanced for both. Like, I've always said that I wish being strong mattered as much as being gymnastical.
Mm-hmm.
Call it gymnastical, another new word for you. And I think this year it was a good balance of that. You had to be strong, mm-hmm. and you had to be able to do those high level gymnastic skills in order to make the games. And so I think at least personally for me, I thought it was a really good balance. Mm-hmm. Because if you're truly testing the sport of fitness, like, people need to be good at all of those things. They need to be strong. They need to be able to do gymnastics. They need to have an engine. Like, that's overall fitness, not just, oh, they're really good at gymnastics or strength or whatever. Like, so I really liked them. I thought they were really good. I think the more I watch it, the more it kind of like looks like it does balance out. Like, it would have been interesting to see a little bit more like of a gymnastics capacity. I know that doesn't play into your favor, but like more of a gymnastics capacity based workout that is just like traditional CrossFit stuff, if that makes sense. But I think from like a, are you strong, are you enduring, and do you have skills standpoint, I think it meshed very, very well. So yeah, sweet. Cool.
Well, make sure to give Amanda a follow on Instagram if you have not yet, Amanda_thighs.
That's right.
And if you guys could, please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you are listening, please follow us on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram at blacklistedhq. And we will catch you guys next time.